Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rucha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, the 7th chapter, as the Lord continues to, show Jeremiah, right, as he commands him to speak onto the children of Israel, Judah in particular here, all right, concerning their wickedness, but also showing Jeremiah why it is that he's going to do the things he's going to do to these people as they are stiff-necked and hard-headed, as they've been all the way since the beginning. So this is Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord Yahweh, saying, Stand in the gate of the Lord's house, meaning the entrance to the temple, and proclaim there this word, and say, Hear the word of the Lord Yahweh, all ye of Judah, that enter in at the gates to worship the Lord Yahweh. So anybody that's coming in, it's like going to a broad place, right? In this case, anybody that's going into the temple, coming out of the temple, they would hear this message. So Jeremiah is basically telling them, right, listen up, all of you that are going in here to worship the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, this is what the Lord Yahweh says, the God of Israel, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place, right? So all these wicked things that you're doing, these ungodly ways and lifestyle that you're living, change those ways, and the Lord is going to allow you to continue to stay here. But you can see how, from their perspective, Jeremiah is just he's just a boy out here outside the temple, hollering things, playing wannabe prophet. From their perspective, right? What do you know about the Lord? And imagine, right, those that are, higher up, or the elders, so to speak. They, in their minds, they're like, but man, boy, if you don't get out of here with that, because they're already in the land. So you're telling them now that the Lord is going to allow you to stay in this place. In their minds, they don't see any threat that's coming. They don't see any reason why they wouldn't continue to stay in that place. Verse 4, trust ye not in lying words, saying, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord are these. And what that means, or what he was telling them is, don't believe those that tell you that no destruction is coming to this place, considering that the temple where the Lord has his name is here. There's no way he's going to destroy this place, while we have the temple here. So we're good. For if ye thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if ye thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, right? So instead of judging wrongfully, right, and depriving the poor from and the needy from justice, if you actually judge and live according to the ways the Lord ordained us to live, right? If ye oppress not the stranger, to exploit foreigners, the fatherless, and the widow, because these were, once again, less fortunate people of society. It was a society where, the father, okay, would be the main, provider. So if he died or he wasn't there, and his children were fatherless, or his wife became a widow, oftentimes it would be difficult for them in that society, because people might not, nobody might want to remarry or marry that widow, considering maybe she's old or whatever the case is. And maybe she may not have much family, or her family might not be, well off enough to take care of her and her family, right? So it was a very tough predicament for them. But the Lord designed the statutes and ordinances that govern us in a way where it would be manageable for them. However, clearly Israel wasn't following this. And shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your hurt. Because what would happen as a result of worshiping these other gods? It would incur the wrath of the Most High and bring judgment upon them. And instead of a blessing, he would turn a curse onto them. Then will I cause you to dwell in this place, in the land that I have given to your fathers forever and ever. So as long as you continue to follow the ways of the Lord, you're going to be fine. But right now, you're not doing that. So stop, stop and turn back to the Lord so you can be good. Behold, ye trust in lying words that cannot profit. So you're listening to false prophets telling you, no, it's going to be all right. No, there's not going to be any problem, no issues. You know, as today, you know, you had Bishop Nate say, no, there isn't going to be any Jacob's trouble, which now he's trying to switch that. But for years, they stood by that, right? Verse 9, will ye steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom ye know not, and come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say we are delivered to do all these abominations? So you steal, you murder, you commit adultery, you swear falsely, you do all these abominable and wicked acts. You serve other gods, right? You sacrifice unto idols. And then you come to this temple before the Lord, and then basically pseudo worship the Lord and pray for deliverance and thanks just so you can return back to continue doing those abominations. Is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? So is this what is this what my temple has become to you? Because that's all they were doing. They were, as he mentioned, a den of robbers. Let's look into the word robbers. They were doing unacceptable things and coming in there, right? Violent one, breaker, robber, murderer. So it doesn't have to be just like somebody that steals. But if you're guilty of some of the things that Jeremiah mentioned over here, you know, you were considered a quote unquote robber, but they were coming into the temple as though those that behave in that manner are accepted. That's why the Lord says, does my temple look like a den of robbers to you? Behold, even I have seen it, saith the Lord. But go ye now unto my place. And when the Lord says, I have seen it, meaning like even, right, it's even come up to me, the things that you are doing coming up into this house. Even I can see that you guys perceive this place to be, you know, just whatever, right? You can come, you can do whatever you want to do, and then just come on into the temple and just practice the ordinances and then call it a day. Verse 12, but go ye now unto my place, which is in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel. So the Lord is saying, go over there to Shiloh. Now that's where which is in Ephraim, right? And I typed it in here. It says here, yes, Shiloh is located in the territory of the tribe of Ephraim. After the Israelites conquered the land, the tabernacle was set up in Shiloh, making it the central religious and political capital for about 400 years during the time of the judges. So the Lord is saying, go look at Shiloh, where I, as it says, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it. Because remember that at this point, this was after the northern kingdom had their land, you know, emptied out. What I mean by that is the Lord sent the Assyrians to besiege them, capture them, take them captive into Assyria, and put heathens into their land, but they left a wake of destruction. So the Lord is saying, go and see what I did to the northern kingdom over there for their wickedness, so that you can reconsider thinking that, oh, the temple is here, the Lord is not going to do anything to this place, we're going to be all right. Verse 13, and now because ye have done all these works, these wicked works, saith the Lord Yahweh, and I spake unto you, rising up early and speaking. And how did the Lord do that? By his prophets. In fact, one example is Jeremiah. If you actually look at how these chapters and verses are worded, it sounds like it's the Lord directly speaking, but you always see the suffix saith the Lord, right? For thus saith the Lord, for thus saith the Holy One. So that's the Lord technically speaking to Israel through his prophets. So when he says, I spake unto you, rising up early and speaking, it doesn't mean the Most High set a 4:30 a.m. alarm clock to wake up and start speaking to Israel. But he sent his prophets who would wake up, who would rise up early, who would go into the different areas, like the Lord commanded Jeremiah to go to the gates of the temple here, right? But they would go into the different areas where Israel were, and then they would speak the words of the Lord onto them, like we do today. But it says here, but ye heard not, and I called you, but ye answered not. So nobody is taking heed, nobody is regarding the message of the Lord. It's almost like he wasn't there. Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, meaning the temple, wherein ye trust, and unto this place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. So in this temple and in Jerusalem, I'm going to destroy it just like I did in Shiloh and Ephraim when I sent the Assyrians against them. And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. So just as the northern kingdom was carried out of their land, so would happen to the southern kingdom. Verse 16, therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear thee. So don't even pray to me concerning them, concerning having mercy. I'm not going to hear it. Seest thou not what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? Don't you see this? You're going to see them doing this wickedness. Do you expect me to actually answer any prayers concerning them? Do they answer anything that I have to say? Do they even take heed to anything that I have to tell them? The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven. Look at that. So from the children to the parents, to the father, to the mother, they're all working in tandem in order to worship or partake in idolatry. Once again, like, here's a modern day example. Christmas time is coming, or Halloween is coming, and then you got the kids that are all excited. The parents go and buy the costumes, they get the candy, right? And then they prepare for that night. They dress their children up. They will take them outside, going trick or treating. To them, it's just a little fun little holiday, for the children and everybody, and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, the origins of it go back to, left hand practices. Christmas time comes, the children all happy, they get the milk and cookies, right? Then the parents buy the presents, they wrap it up, they go and buy the tree, they come and set it up. Has it ever occurred to you this ritual that you're partaking in, where and why you do that? Why does it matter if you have a tree set up? And it's like they're so religious about it. No. If you don't get, especially those that are heavy into it, if you don't get the right tree or you don't get the tree, they get upset. They go there and they can't find the tree, they lose it. Did you get the tree? And they put it on the back of their truck and drive it home. In the 10th chapter, when we go into it, Jeremiah describes that. Exactly that. Christmas, the practice of Christmas, because it goes back to the Babylonians. And that's why it sounds so similar. It wasn't called Christmas during Jeremiah's time, but it's called that now. So they'll buy the trees, they'll buy the presents, they'll wrap the presents, they'll decorate the trees, right, with their kids and them. They'll put the star on top of it, they'll light it up, they'll play the Christmas music, they'll get the eggnog, right? They'll place the presents under the tree specifically at the nighttime of that night. And in the early morning, the kids will go under the tree and go and pick up the presents and unwrap. That whole ritual, that goes back to idolatry. But they partake in it, and to them it seems so harmless. Go and tell them that. Go and tell them, do you know that you're not supposed to be celebrating Christmas because it's a pagan holiday? It goes back to pagan worship. You think they're going to listen to you? You think that people are going to stop celebrating Christmas because of that? The only reason they've dialed back now on that is because of financial reasons, not because the Most High said don't do it. So it's the very same thing that we're reading of here in Jeremiah 7. He's telling them, you got the children, they gather the wood, the women are kneading the dough, the fathers kindling the fire, they're baking cakes to the Queen of Heaven, they're offering, as it says, to pour out drink offerings onto other gods. that they may provoke me to anger. But to them, that's their way. They do it. Were they listening when the prophets were telling them not to do it? No. Just like if you go and tell them today, it's pagan, don't do it, the Most High doesn't like it, are they going to listen? No. They're going to continue to do it. You see how it's the same thing over and over and over again? So now you can understand how is it that they had prophets with them back then, right before them, telling them these things, and they didn't listen? They were like blatantly worshiping idols. How do you do that? Look around you. They do it today. And it looks normal. It's nothing new under the sun, right? As King Solomon said. Verse 19. Do they provoke me to anger, saith the Lord? Do they not provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces? So they're doing this, as though this is really just to anger me, but is it not really to their hurt? At the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be ashamed because of the judgment that is gonna happen. The consequence of their actions is going to affect them. I'm telling you to stop, so I don't got to do it to you. But if you don't, who's really getting hurt? Verse 20, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, mine anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man and upon beast, and upon the trees of the field, and upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn and shall not be quenched. So the Lord is like, I'm to the point where when I bring this devastation, I'm not trying to have mercy. Everybody and everything is going to get this work. The whole land is polluted. And nobody's going to, the Lord's wrath is not going to be quenched. You're not going to come and say, oh, Lord, please have mercy. And then no. And if you read the details of the destruction that the Babylonians brought, you'll see an example of that. Verse 21, thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, put your burnt offerings onto your sacrifices and eat flesh. Now, I'm going to read this in the NLT. But basically, the Lord is saying, take your burnt offerings and you eat it yourself. Don't offer that shit to me. This is what the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of Israel, says. Take your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and eat them yourselves. I'm not interested in it. For I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. So here's like an example, right? And I know I use these kinds of examples, but the feeling of imagining the examples that I give you can give you just a tiny glimpse of like what the Lord is talking about when he says he's angry about this. So once again, you have a woman, you have a wife, and rather than perform her duties, cooking for you, laying with you, taking care of you, she decides that she doesn't really want to do that. Instead, she wants to go and do that for another man or other men. And then she goes out and does that, goes and gets impregnated by another man. Then she wants to come to you and try and cook for you and try and lay with you and try to, do those things while she's doing this wicked adult, living this wicked adulterous lifestyle. You're gonna like the Lord said, like don't touch me, don't get into my kitchen, I don't want to hear nothing, I don't want to see nothing, I don't want you to touch me, I don't want any of that stuff. Keep that shit to yourself. When you were supposed to be faithful and do those things, you didn't want to do that, but you want to go step out, commit adultery, and then come to me with this shit. The level of disrespect. So similarly, right, the Lord commanded you to follow his ways. They didn't do that. They go and worship idols. They sacrifice onto idols. They offer their children as sacrifices onto idols. And then they want to come to the Lord. They want to come to the temple. They want to offer offerings onto the Lord as if he's supposed to accept that with your polluted ass hands. Man, this shit is infuriating just even recounting this. Because it's like you disobedience alone is infuriating enough. But then on top of that, you add disrespect to the Most High. The Lord can decide to one day snap his fingers and then there's no oxygen on the planet Earth anymore. Then what? So, like, imagine how much restraint you need when you know how very easily you can do something like that. Hey, anyway, verse 22, for I speak not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. But this thing commanded I them. So the Lord, this doesn't mean the Lord did not say anything concerning sacrifice, because he did. When you go into the law that we were given, it goes into that. But what the Lord means by this is my focus, my priority, what I was concerned about wasn't so much the sacrifices and burnt offerings. Those are ordinances. Those are like parts of ways you can serve me. But what I'm really concerned about, verse 23, but this thing I commanded them, the priority, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and ye shall be my people. And walk ye in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you. If you do that, I will take care of you. Once again, going back to the analogy, it's like you having a woman and you're like, I want you to be able to cook, clean, just be a good woman, be comforting. Okay. But I'm not so much concerned about the cooking and the cleaning and stuff as much as I am that you listen to me and you're loyal to me, that you're not stepping out, you're not doing, things contrary to what I require. That's prior. Like if you can't cook, but you're obedient, cool. You listen, cool. We'll manage. We'll work on it. But if you can do all those other things, but you are a whore or you're an adulteress and you don't listen, get the hell out of here. I don't want to deal with you. You see what I mean? So that's why the Lord is saying here, like, yeah, the sacrifice and all that. Yeah, that's that. But my priority is that you listen to me. You follow what I've told you to do. The things I've commanded you, you do that. That's what I'm most concerned about. Because when you even look at like the history of Israel, we've been in certain captivities where we couldn't perform these things, these sacrifices and so on. But the Lord was pleased if we were still obedient to him in that time, rather than us having the ability to perform these ordinances but being disobedient to the Lord. That's why in the book of Samuel, he said what? To obey is better than sacrifice. See? Have the Lord have as much pleasure in burnt offerings as he does in obedience, roughly paraphrasing. Verse 24, but they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear. And it's so crazy because it's really not that difficult, right? Everybody's going to live a certain way of life. In life, you're going to do certain things. You're going to make certain decisions. So it's not like the Lord is asking you to do something that's out of your way. It's not like he's asking you to do something you normally wouldn't do, right? Everybody's going to eat. Everybody's going to live. You're going to interact with people, right? So the Lord is just saying, in your interactions, do it this way rather than that. In your eating, eat this rather than that. When you act like what the Lord is asking for is too much, you're basically saying, well, I'm going to eat regardless, but I'm not going to eat the things you told me to eat because that's too much. Instead, I'm going to eat something else. So if you can eat something else, why can't you eat what the Lord said to eat? If you can worship another God, why can't you worship the God that created you, that told you to worship him? You're going to worship anyway. Why not worship the one who's going to bring benefits to your life and existence? Now you see why the Lord gets so infuriated, because he's like, oh Lord, like what else? Where else do you turn? And that's why we've arrived at the prophecies where we are today, where it's going to end in destruction of a majority of the people of the Lord, because that's the only solution. Like, if this is the conclusion the Lord came to, that means that there was no other way to fix this situation but by this destruction. Because the Most High is all-knowing. He's omniscient. So if he ended up saying this is how the prophecy is going to go, that means that there was no other way, which is crazy. Verse 24, but they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward. So they didn't listen as the Lord sent his prophets, as he instructed them. They did not open up their ears and take heed. Instead, they decided to live after their own ways. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. They wanted to live how they wanted to live after whatever they desired. And as it says, they went backward, they regressed, transgressed and regressed rather than progressing, right? They didn't make progress. They went the opposite way. Since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt, on to this day have I sent unto you all my servants, the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. So the Lord is like, I've been constantly. It's like having a child that never listens. And you're like, yo, I got to tell you this every single day. You tell them this today, they do it. You whoop their ass. Tomorrow, they're right back at it. It's like a 9-to-5 shift that they clock in and do every single day. You're like, yo, eventually you get tired of whipping their ass. That's where you get your Isaiah, the 1st chapter. Your child is every single day. They doing this. And you sit them down, you talk to them. They say, okay. They go back to school, they do the same shit. Then you whoop their ass. They cry. They say they won't do it again. They go back the next day, they do the same thing. Then you talk to them, then whoop their ass. Then they do the same thing. Then you whoop their ass, talk to them, whoop their ass, talk to them, whoop their ass 2 more times. Then they go and do the same thing. So eventually you just get to the point where you're like, what more can I do for this child to listen? So as it says here, verse 26, yet they hearkened not unto me, nor inclined their ear, but hardened their neck. They did worse than their fathers. So as the generations went on, and the Lord kept sending his prophets, Israel just kept waxing worse and worse. Their fathers did wickedness, they witnessed it, they came, and they evolved it. Verse 27, therefore thou shalt speak all these words unto them, but they will not hearken unto thee. So he's saying, I've given you the rundown. This is the people. Go ahead and tell them, but they're not going to listen. But tell them anyway for a witness. Thou shalt also call unto them, but they will not answer thee. So don't be surprised today when people don't listen and they don't care. It's expected, but we have to do it anyway. But thou shalt say unto them, this is a nation that obeyeth not the voice of the Lord Yahweh their God, nor receiveth correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth. So it's the way of truth, the way of righteousness. You're not going to even hear them speak it, and when you speak something, it comes from your mind. So if it's not coming out your mouth, chances are, not always, but chances are, it's not even in your thoughts. Cut off thine hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, and take up a lamentation on high places. It's personifying the people of Jerusalem as a woman, and cutting off your hair, meaning to shave off your hair, which is a sign of mourning. As it says, and take up a lamentation on high places, for the Lord Yahweh hath rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. So he called Israel the generation of his wrath. Damn. From the people of the Lord, his chosen, to the generation of his wrath. That's wild. For the children of Judah have done evil in my sight, saith the Lord Yahweh. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name to pollute it. When you go into that word abominations there, it goes into abominable thing, i.e. idols. So it got so bad, they said they had idols in the temple. All right, to pollute it. And they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire. And I believe this was somewhere south of Judah, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe south of Jerusalem, in the valley of Hinnom. Okay, as it says here, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire. This was literal. Okay, they were actually burning their children as a sacrifice. The Lord says here, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my heart. So the Lord is like, they're doing this, and I never once commanded them to do that. It never once even came into my mind to ever tell them to do that. But yet, this is what they're doing. So as a result, right, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. For they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place. So the Lord is like, no more are they going to call this place Tophet, no more are they going to call is it going to be known as the valley of the son of Hinnom? In fact, let me look up the word Tophet in this meaning. But when he says the valley of slaughter, meaning, because the in the ancient world, places were named after, sometimes after events that happened there that were significant. So the Lord is like, there's going to be so much slaughter and dead bodies that are going to be buried here that it's going to be known as the valley of slaughter. It says here, place of fire, right? A place in the southeast end of the valley of the son of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem. As it says here, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter, for they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place. So there's going to be so many dead people, you're going to bury and bury and bury till you fill up the valley and there's no more space for the dead bodies, which is to signify basically great death and judgment that the Lord would bring. Verse 33, and the carcasses of this people shall be meat for the fowls of the heaven and for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away. Meaning that their dead bodies is going to be food for the birds, right? And the wild animals that come by and find it. And it ain't going to be nobody to say like, shoo, and kick the animals away, let alone somebody to bury you, right? So meaning that it's going to be, when the Lord says these kinds of things, is to signify, how like bad it's going to be. It's like somebody threatening you and saying they're gonna beat you so bad you're gonna be unrecognizable. Like even your mom ain't gonna be able to recognize you after. Now, technically speaking, you would still be able to be recognized based on some other features, but it's a saying to say like that's how bad you're gonna be beaten. Verse 34, then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth. Mirth is happiness, joy, laughter, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, for the land shall be desolate. So, as where, you had normal life going on, though it was in wickedness, when the Lord is done, it's going to be desolate. All that is going to be turned upside down. Broken down buildings on fire, dead bodies, people carried captive, and crying and mourning and lamentation all over the place, which will be a result of their disobedience. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the book of Jeremiah, the 7th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.